shows, if two characters try to end each other's careers, they're pretty much enemies for life.
Oh, absolutely. The bridge is burned.
Right. But in professional wrestling, putting someone through a wooden table is often just the first step to becoming best friends.
I mean, it's a completely counterintuitive dynamic. But when physical dominance is your primary currency, sometimes the only way to earn absolute trust is by, well, surviving absolute brutality.
Yeah, that makes a weird kind of sense. Well, welcome to the deep dive. We have a massive stack of sources for you today.
We really do.
It is heavily loaded with wrestling match databases, deep dive sports journalism articles, and these massive broadcast transcripts spanning all the way from 2018 to 2026.
It's a huge timeline.
It really is. And the mission for this deep dive is to trace an incredible multi-year narrative arc. We are looking at WWE superstars Rhea Ripley and IYO Sky.
Two absolute titans of the industry.
Oh, for sure. We're going to track how they went from bitter blood feud rivals to dominant tag team champions, and finally, to one of the most shocking things you can see in sports entertainment.
Which is a completely amicable split.
Exactly. A storyline that essentially defies decades of industry tropes. And I want to say this directly to you, the listener. Whether you are a hardcore wrestling fanatic who knows like every nuance of the matches these two have had, or you're just someone fascinated by long-term character development, this deep dive is going to deliver for you.
Because it really is a masterclass in how complex relationships evolve over years.
Right, like how alliances are forged through shared trauma and how a highly strategic short-term partnership can elevate everyone involved, from the performers themselves to the actual business. Okay, let's unpack this.
So, to understand the architecture of this partnership, we really have to look at the bedrock.
The foundation.
Right. A profoundly strong alliance requires deep mutual respect. And in this specific environment, respect isn't, negotiated in a boardroom. It's earned through intense physical trauma.
Which is putting it mildly.
Yeah, exactly. If you look at their early history, you actually have to go all the way back to the 2018 Mae Young Classic tournament.
Where IYO actually defeated Rhea.
Yeah, she did. But the real crucible, like the true testing ground, was down in NXT in 2020.
Man, reading the transcripts and play-by-plays of those NXT wars, it feels like reading a description of a demolition derby.
They were just beating the absolute tar out of each other.
They were. They engaged in these relentless physical wars over the NXT Women's Championship. Like, I know they had a massive triple threat match involving Charlotte Flair.
That was a huge match.
It was. But the journalism sources point to a specific singles match for the title as the true defining moment between them.
Yeah, and that singles match is vital because of the psychology embedded in the physical performance.
What do you mean by that?
Well, it wasn't just about executing moves, right? It was a conversation told through violence. In wrestling, the story is often found in what a performer is willing to endure.
Well, the endurance here is just terrifying. I mean, they're fighting on the outside of the ring, the concrete floor is exposed, and IYO literally hoists Rhea Ripley up and power bombs her straight through an announce table.
It's just a brutal spot.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And the psychology you mentioned really shines in the finish. Because IYO didn't win by some fluke or a quick roll-up.
No, she made a statement.
She dragged a battered Rhea back into the ring, climbed to the top rope, hit her signature over the moonsault, and pinned her clean in the middle of the ring to retain the championship.
And that specific sequence is crucial. Pinning someone clean in the middle of the ring after putting them through a table, it communicates something very specific to the audience.
That neither woman is submissive.
Exactly. It establishes this baseline of equality. They both realize, hey, I can hit this person with a car, and they are still going to get back up.
I look at that early dynamic, and it makes me think of two apex predators in the wild. Like Batman and Superman,
That's a great analogy.
You have these two incredibly dangerous forces occupying the exact same territory. And before they can ever truly respect each other as allies, they have to test each other's lethal capabilities.
They have to measure each other's worth.
Right. They have to realize it's ultimately more energy efficient to hunt together than to constantly fight over the same prey. But, and here's my pushback on this.
Okay, let's hear it.
Establishing mutual physical respect doesn't automatically equal a tag team. Like, how do you go from putting someone through a table to trusting them implicitly with your career? You can respect someone's physical toughness and still absolutely hate their guts.
You definitely can.
So for this to evolve into actual trust, they needed an external force to push them together, didn't they?
What's fascinating here is how the narrative methodically shifts from internal conflict to external threats. You are spot on. Respect is not trust. Trust requires shared trauma. And that trauma arrived in late 2023, specifically at the War Games match in Vancouver.
Oh, man. War Games.
This is the pivotal transition point in their relationship. So Rhea Ripley had been out of action for a while. She had suffered a legitimate, very nasty, broken orbital bone.
A completely shattered eye socket,
Mm-hmm.
which is just,
And an
horrifying.
incredibly painful injury. And she returns to this massive, chaotic War Games match, which, for those who don't know, is this incredibly dangerous structure. 2 rings enclosed by a giant steel cage.
It's basically a giant torture chamber.
Pretty much. And she comes down the aisle wearing this super intimidating protective face mask. And she doesn't just enter the fray, she absolutely destroys Liv Morgan.
Oh, she wrecks her.
And then she deliberately fights alongside IYO Sky. They are suddenly on the same side of the cage, just standing shoulder to shoulder, fighting a common war against a common enemy.
That is the moment the early seeds of a unified front were really planted, when they realized their mutual ruthlessness was much more effective when pointed in the same direction.
Yep, it shifted the whole dynamic.
But even a unified front in a single match isn't a permanent alliance. To cross that threshold, you need an emotional catalyst.
And that catalyst was a profound sense of heartbreak, specifically the situation involving the Kabuki warriors, Asuka and Kairi Sane.
This entire sequence of events is pure cinematic drama. I mean, IYO Sky has this deep, long-standing, historically rooted relationship with Asuka and Kairi.
Right, Asuka is essentially her mentor.
Exactly. They operated as a faction, treating each other like family. But Rhea Ripley, who is seeing things objectively from the outside, she keeps warning IYO. Over and over, Rhea's telling her, you cannot trust Asuka, they are using you.
And IYO, understandably, shuts her out.
Yeah, because she doesn't want to hear relationship advice from the woman who used to powerbomb her through tables.
Right, it's classic cognitive dissonance. IYO desperately wants to believe in the loyalty of her faction, even as all the evidence points to their impending betrayal.
Until the moment the tension finally snaps. And it erupts in this incredibly dramatic, brutal in-ring sequence. Asuka and Kairi finally reveal their true colors and turn on IYO.
A total blindside.
And in the ensuing chaos, Asuka unleashes her trademark poison mist, spraying it directly into the eyes of Rhea Ripley, completely blinding her.
Which is such a great visual.
It's so chaotic. So Rhea is completely helpless, screaming, stumbling around the ring blind. Kairi Sane climbs to the top rope, looking to hit her devastating diving insane elbow directly onto the blinded Rhea Ripley.
And in that split second,
Yes. IYO Sky has to make a split-second choice between her treacherous mentor and her former enemy.
and she physically throws herself right into the line of fire.
She shoves the blinded Rhea out of the way and takes the diving elbow herself. She just absorbs the physical punishment meant for Rhea. Now let me ask you about this. My immediate theory reading this was that IYO did it purely out of guilt. Like, she realized Rhea had been telling the truth the whole time, and throwing herself under that elbow drop was her way of apologizing without having to actually say a word. Why else would IYO sacrifice herself for a former rival and abandon her longtime mentor and family?
Well, I'd actually take it a step further. It wasn't just guilt. It was a desperate search for vindication and genuine respect.
Interesting.
Yeah, if you look at the sports journalism analysis from the time, specifically there's this brilliant breakdown from Dorgan Sports. They point out that IYO was seeking validation. She was actively being denied by her own group.
Despite being a world-class talent.
Exactly. Despite her incredible talent, her previous championship run alongside Asuka and Kairi was booked in a way that diminished her. To quote the Dorgan Sports piece directly, she was booked like basically a background character in Damage CTRL.
Ouch. A background character in her own championship story. That has to sting.
Oh, it creates deep resentment. Asuka and Kairi expected her obedience, but Rhea Ripley offered her something far more valuable, which was equality.
That makes total sense.
And Rhea had already proven her loyalty through action earlier in the timeline. There was an incident where Rhea actually rushed the ring to save IYO from a vicious 2-on-1 beatdown by Roxanne Perez and Julia.
Oh, right. I remember reading about that.
So by severing ties with her mentors and siding with Rhea, IYO finally found a partner who actually respected her as a peer. It was definitely a trauma bond, but a surprisingly healthy one built on the mutual recognition of each other's greatness.
And that mutual recognition birthed the phenomenon the fans dubbed Rio, which is a great tag team name, by the way. Let's dive into the mechanical and commercial brilliance of this pairing, because on paper, combining these two specific characters really shouldn't work.
No, they are stylistic polar opposites in almost every conceivable way.
Right. IYO actually pointed this out herself in an interview we have in the transcripts. She noted that their chemistry works purely because they are physical opposites.
Yeah, she's very self-aware about it.
You've got Rhea, who IYO describes as tall, heavily muscular, and so cool.
Yeah.
Just an absolute powerhouse. And then IYO describes herself as small, incredibly fast, and the flippy person.
The flippy person, I love it.
It's perfect. You have the grounding force and the aerial assault.
And, the classic powerhouse and high flyer dynamic is a foundational wrestling archetype. But it is rarely executed with two performers who are already established top-tier main event solo stars.
Exactly. And the commercial appeal of combining them was just off the charts. The financial and viewership sources note that this duo had massive international appeal.
Oh, huge.
They specifically highlight that while IYO brought her established Japanese fan base, Rhea Ripley was simultaneously super blowing up in Japan, creating this perfect storm of international marketability.
And that international marketability cannot be overstated when we talk about WWE's aggressive global expansion strategy during this era. They really needed acts that transcended the domestic American audience.
Which perfectly explains why this all culminates on the most massive stage imaginable. January 5, 2026.
The big one.
The highly publicized Netflix Raw anniversary show, broadcasting live from Brooklyn. They faced the Kabuki Warriors for the women's tag team titles in the opening match of the night.
Such an amazing match.
It goes 17 minutes. The crowd is absolutely electric, and fans online immediately label it an absolute banger. Rhea and IYO win the belts in this highly emotional climax.
It's a really special moment.
But here's where it gets really interesting. When I first read about this, I immediately questioned the booking logic.
How so?
I thought, are they just slapping two highly popular solo stars together to sell T-shirts and pop a massive rating for the Netflix executives? Or did this actually help the show? Did it serve the long-term creative product?
It's very easy to look at corporate synergy and assume it's just a cheap cash-in, but the strategic analysis completely refutes that cynicism.
No way.
Yeah. Placing the tag team belts on two bona fide main event single stars performs a very specific mechanical function for the roster. It instantly injects massive credibility into the entire tag team division.
Ah, I see. The rising tide lifts all boats theory, but weaponized for television.
Yes, exactly. And if you look at the landscape of the women's tag division at that exact moment, it was incredibly deep.
It really was stacked.
You had the physically imposing team of Nia Jax and Lash Legend. You had the veteran and rookie dynamic of Bayley and Lyra Valkyria. You had the highly coordinated faction Fatal Influence.
So many good teams.
Right. So by putting the titles on Rhea and IYO, management was telling the audience that these tag team belts matter just as much as the world championships. Therefore, whoever eventually beats Ryo automatically absorbs that main event aura.
Wow, so they become instantly validated in the eyes of the audience.
Exactly.
Which brings up the most jarring part of this entire timeline. We have to talk about the shockingly abrupt defeat that ended this reign.
The execution of that loss was a brilliant, highly calculated swerve.
So on the February 27, 2026 episode of Friday Night SmackDown, this dominant, globally popular title reign comes to a screeching halt at just 53 days.
Just out of nowhere.
They are defending against the irresistible forces, which is Nia Jax and Lash Legend. And the finish of this match is a pure heartbreaker for the fans. Mommy, Rhea, has Nia Jax set up in the middle of the ring. She manages to hit her devastating finisher, the Riptide, successfully on Nia Jax.
And hoisting Nia Jax up for that move is a massive visual spectacle of strength.
An unbelievable display of power. But in the chaos of the moment, Rhea loses her situational awareness. She doesn't realize that Lash Legend had quietly made a brown tag on the ring apron.
That's a classic heel move.
Yep. Lash is now the legal competitor. So while Rhea is exhausted, recovering from slamming the massive Nia Jax, Lash capitalizes on the distraction. She sneaks in from behind, hits her own finisher, the Lash extension, directly on Rhea Ripley, and steals the titles.
And just like that.
3 seconds later, the reign is over. Now, I have to be honest. When I was mapping out this timeline, I was genuinely baffled. So what does this all mean?
It's a lot to process.
It really is. They build this epic, multi-year story, they win the belts on a massive Netflix broadcast, and then they lose them less than 2 months later on a random Friday night. Why kill the momentum so soon?
This raises an important question about the macro-level booking strategy, especially when you factor in the specific time of year this took place.
Right. The calendar is key here.
Very key. Sportskeeda published an excellent breakdown of the 3 strategic pillars driving this creative decision, and when you look at it, the logic is airtight.
Okay, lay it on me.
First, you have to look at the creative regime. Paul Levesque, Triple H, who oversees the creative direction, has a well-documented philosophy regarding the road to WrestleMania. He loves executing unpredictable, shocking title changes during this specific window.
Because it shatters the predictability of the traditional WrestleMania season formula. Fans usually assume no major titles will change hands on regular television leading up to the big show.
Exactly. It forces the audience to realize that anything can happen on any given broadcast. The second strategic pillar is about building the next generation.
With Lash Legend.
Right. By having a rising star like Lash Legend be the one to actually pin the dominant, nearly unbeatable Rhea Ripley, you instantly solidify Lash as a major, highly dangerous player for the next decade.
It's a direct transfer of credibility.
Actually, it's the ultimate endorsement. But the third, and arguably most important reason, was strictly logistical regarding the main event picture. Management had to unburden Rhea of the tag team titles immediately.
Why the rush?
Because the very next night was the Elimination Chamber Premium Live event in Chicago. By dropping the tag belts on Friday, Rhea was narratively freed up to enter the Brutal Chamber match on Saturday, win it by pinning Tiffany Stratton, and secure her path to face Jade Cargill for the Women's Championship.
Okay. So if you've ever had to gracefully hand off a major collaborative project at work, just so you could focus all your energy on a massive, career-defining solo presentation, you understand exactly the logistical chess move WWE was executing with Rhea here.
It's project management, just with more suplexes.
Seriously, she needed a clear calendar. Which leads us to the aftermath. Usually when a super team loses their titles, especially a team comprised of 2 massive, ego-driven single stars, the audience knows exactly what happens next. It's a trope as old as professional wrestling itself.
The inevitable, violent betrayal.
Yes. Someone is getting hit in the back with a steel chair, or getting thrown through a barbershop window, or being powerbombed onto the concrete. The frustration of the loss always turns inward.
That's the formula.
But that didn't happen here. Instead, we got an incredibly mature, amicable breakup on the March 2, 2026 episode of Raw.
And I would argue that subverting that expectation made the segment far more compelling than a standard violent betrayal ever could have been.
It really was an incredibly emotional television segment. They had an in-ring interview, and instead of pointing fingers about missing the blind tag, Rhea took the microphone and directly credited IYO with pulling her out of a very dark, isolated situation in her life.
Just total vulnerability.
Yeah, and IYO reciprocated the sentiment. She told the global audience that Rhea did the exact same thing for her when she was drowning in the toxicity of damaged CTRL. They hugged in the middle of the ring.
A very real moment.
And then Rhea told IYO to hold down the fort on Raw while she migrated over to SmackDown to handle Jade Cargill.
Which, as a quick aside, had massive real-world heat fueling that specific rivalry.
Oh, absolutely. We have to mention that. The sources detail a very real, very public social media war between Rhea and Jade that was happening concurrently.
It got pretty intense.
Jade had done an interview calling Rhea a dream opponent, and Rhea fired back publicly, aggressively demanding Jade learn how to actually work a match properly and to stop breaking the fourth wall to defame her character online.
Real heavy, blurred lines tension there. And obviously, we're not taking sides here, just reporting what the sources laid out about the drama.
Of course. So Rhea is going off to fight this massive, highly personal war, and she leaves IYO with her complete blessing. It's just so rare to see that level of emotional maturity in wrestling.
It really is.
It's like a highly successful corporate spin-off, where both founders leave as billionaires, shaking hands, rather than a hostile takeover where they actively try to destroy each other's stock value.
That corporate spin-off analogy is perfect.
Yeah.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, there is a profound real-world lesson here for you, the listener.
For sure.
Whether you are navigating a business partnership, working on a long-term creative project, or just managing your personal relationships, there is a massive value in recognizing when a dynamic has successfully served its purpose.
Knowing when to pause while you're still operating at peak capacity.
Even beyond that, it's about preserving equity. Pausing gracefully allows both individuals to pursue their ultimate solo goals, in this case, WrestleMania Singles Championships, without torching the incredibly strong foundation they spent years building.
They didn't burn the bridge.
No, they simply agreed to walk different paths for a while.
It really is a masterclass in patient, nuanced storytelling. So let's wrap up this deep dive. We have watched the complex Ryo dynamic evolve from brutal NXT rivals literally powerbombing each other through wooden tables in 2020 to finding desperate common ground inside the War Games cage.
An incredible journey.
We watched them defend each other against the toxic betrayals of former mentors, absorbing physical punishment to protect one another. We analyzed how they dominated the tag team division on a global stage, elevating the entire roster in the process.
Yep.
And ultimately, we watched them execute a perfectly healthy, mutually beneficial split that defied decades of wrestling cliches.
A true rarity in their industry and a massive testament to the psychological depth of the characters they've built over the last 6 years.
But I want to leave you, the listener, with a final thought to mull over as we close out. By defying those familiar tropes, by splitting up amicably and deliberately preserving their deep emotional bond, WWE management has essentially planted a ticking time bomb in their programming.
Oh, that is an interesting way to look at it.
Think about the long-term implications. If Rhea Ripley and IYO Sky ever cross paths again to fight for a world championship at a future WrestleMania, won't the emotional weight of their preserved friendship make that eventual collision far more devastating than a traditional cliché betrayal ever could?
Oh, absolutely.
You don't have to hate someone to fight them, but stepping into the ring to destroy someone you truly love and respect, that is a whole different kind of psychological warfare.
It really is.
It's like we said at the start. They survived the crucible to forge an unbreakable bond. And the only thing capable of breaking that bond is itself.